struggle is overrated. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm downplaying what you're going through right now.
Yeah.
But you know as well as I do that it's passing.
Sure.
You know as well as I do that it's passing. You know as well as I do that it can't last forever. That's impossible. So there is first the season of sustenance where God sustains you and teaches you how to lean fully on Him. Where even if you wanted to, you don't have a plan for tomorrow. And so without a plan for tomorrow, I don't have a choice but to say, God, tomorrow let's take care of me again. You got me again tomorrow. Before you enter the promised land, I've got to deal with your mindset. Unless you change your mindset, you're not making it into the promised land. And
Hey, welcome back to another episode of In the Making. My name is Joshua. I'm with Nigel, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about why most Christians are financially stuck, and we're going to also share with you different principles, biblical principles, which you can start implementing in 2026 in order to unlock financial favor in your life. So today, we have with us Mr. Poloko Global, the author of Unlocking Favor with God and People. Mr. PK.
Here we go.
Welcome to the podcast, man.
Also, I appreciate that book looks old. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I assume that's because you were reading it, not because it was a table mat.
Nah.
That's
For
cool.
deco.
That's cool. That's cool. I should have brought a fresh one. You guys good?
Yeah,
we're
we're great.
great. Fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm alright, man.
Yeah.
I'm alright.
So, Mr. PK, in your years of living, can you give us 3 things that you've seen that keep most Christians financially stuck?
You jump right into it.
Yo, straight into it, man.
3 things that keep. Okay, I don't know if I'll do 3, but I'll tell you the number one thing that, and I'll speak personally, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I like this because it's easy to speak from a personal perspective, from personal experience,
Sure.
where, I can refer to those nights when I didn't have bread. I couldn't afford bread. But for the most part, it's because a lot of Christians think that financial prosperity is a reward for being Christian. Right? They think that being a Christian automatically qualifies you.
Okay.
They think that being a Christian qualifies them for some stimulus package from heaven,
Sure.
where God just hands it out to say, here you go. Now
Sure.
you're going to be good for life.
Sure.
Do you think they're unjustified?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing about what is written in the word that should make us believe that God doesn't expect us to do something with our hands. Or God doesn't expect us to put any kind of value out there. There's nothing in the word that says just sit and wait and you'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's not like that. I mean, even when you go back all the way to Exodus, when the Israelites are scared for their lives because they're about to be overcome by this enemy. Moses says to the people, you just stand still and watch how the Lord rescues you today.
Sure.
And we usually preach about that part. But it seems that Moses goes off to talk to God, and then God says to Moses, why are you standing there?
Yeah.
Right? God says to Moses, why are you standing there? Tell the people to move.
Sure.
Right? While Moses said to the people,
Stand.
just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. And we make a mistake when we fixate on that first part where he says, stand still, not realizing that God gave the override commandment to that, to say, we're not standing still right now. This is a time of war. This is a time of battle. How can you stand still at a time like this? Tell the people to move. Because when you stand still, even if the sea parts before you, nothing happens. You'll still be destroyed, even if the sea is divided for you. So that for me has been the biggest thing. The biggest thing has been just realizing that just because I'm Christian, just because I said I believe in God, doesn't mean that I don't have the responsibility to produce some kind of value for my fellow man, or I don't have the responsibility to do something or create something with my hands, or just sharpen myself and become more valuable as an individual. Being Christian does not exempt you from doing that. So that's the biggest thing. And also the misunderstanding of what faith is. Because to a lot of people, faith is just words. To a lot of people, faith is just words. Faith is just in their head. You look at them and you don't see the faith. That's a dangerous place to be. Faith cannot just be in your head. Faith cannot just be in your prayer room with God. Faith cannot just be a declaration of you saying, 2026 will be my year. I have faith for it.
Yeah.
Your faith for it is proven in your output. Right? When I see you move, when I see you work, when I see you do things with your hands, when I see you take big risks, when I see you embark on brave journeys, I can look at you and say, this guy has big faith. Right? When I see you do big things, I say, this guy has big faith. When I see you work hard, like, this guy has big faith. Not when you're sitting down and telling me how spiritual you are, right? So that's not faith. So it's the misunderstanding of what faith is that keeps a lot of Christians defeated. And I don't want to say just financially, but just overall defeated. They have habits they can't get rid of. Oftentimes it's people who battle with ill health and pray that God would cure something that they just have to cut sugar. That's all they have to do. They just have to cut sugar, and they keep begging God to do something about it. You have to take a walk, take a jog, but you keep begging God to do something about it. It's very important to understand that this Christianity thing is not just us sending God on an errand run. God, would you do this? God, would you do that? That's not what we're doing. That's not true Christianity. Yeah.
So if we would like to see God move in our finances, are there any specific principles that you've applied in your life which have really done a major impact in terms of your finances?
So here's my thing. I think what I want to correct here is something that I learned quite some time ago, and it changed my life. I think I heard it from Bob Proctor. He was teaching on money, and he was saying that if you go read the best books on money, they don't talk about the word money, right? They don't mention finances. And so he made a point. He said that when you start thinking about how much money you want to make, when you start thinking about becoming financially free, the only time you think about money is when you're thinking about how much of it you want. And then you put it aside and you focus on value. That's your focus. Your driving force is value. The problem is a lot of people, when they want to get financial breakthrough, they fixate on financial breakthrough. They fixate on money. But if you listen to anyone who is running a successful business, their biggest stress is not how can I make more money. Their biggest stress is how can I fulfill the orders? How can I improve my product? How can I improve my service? How can we do what we do more efficiently, more effectively? That should be the question at the back of the mind of every single person who is trying to create something for themselves. And for me, I had to learn this the hard way, because obviously, when we think about money, when we think about starting businesses, especially when you are first generation, the moment you get a business idea, the first thing that comes to mind is, how many of these things do I have to sell to make $1 million? How much do I have to do to make $1 million? And the whole entire time, all you can think about is $1 million, which is why so many people will tell you that they have horrible experiences. And, in this case, speaking of black people specifically, in our context in South Africa, so many people will tell you that they have their worst experience with businesses is with our people, with black people, right? Because the moment we think business, we just think money. And so oftentimes what happens is you see it at a large scale, you see it in small ways. You see it whether it's somebody who does your nails or someone who has a tender to build a school somewhere. They get the money. Once they get the money, it's almost as if they never promised they would deliver a job. It's almost as if they were not here saying, this is what we can do. This is the infrastructure. This is what we're going to do. Because at the top of their minds was money. It was money. So it was a powerful revelation for me, because I struggled terribly financially until I understood that. right?
Okay.
I didn't know how to make money until I had to stop thinking about how do I make money? How do I make money? How do I make money? Because what's going to happen is you are building a platform, you're building a podcast, and you don't see money, and someone else comes and says, I'm selling tea, I think it's a good opportunity, and you jump onto that, and someone else comes across and they say, I'm selling cell phones, you can sell secondhand iPhones, you can make some money, and you go over there, and people stay stuck because it's this vicious cycle of just chasing money, right?
Okay.
So I'm not trying to say money is not important. When I say don't chase money, I'm not saying money is not important. I am not trying to say never ever think about making money, which is why I say it's important to think about how much of it you want, how much of it would set you free, how much of it would allow you to operate the way you want to operate in the world, how much of it do you want to be able to take care of your family and to be able to be generous, to do more. How much do you want? So there's nothing wrong with thinking about that, but the problem is that becoming the point of your focus and the center of your worship, to the point where even when you're running a business, you don't have space in your mind to think about how to make the business better, how to serve more people, how to serve those people better, how to improve what you do. You don't have space to think about that because all you think about is money, 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 money.
Sure. Sure.
So I think that's very important that we shift our mindset in terms of that.
Yeah.
Yes, you want the money, but what is the value that you are bringing forth for that money, right? How valuable are you, and how valuable is the thing that you are trying to offer us?
Sure.
Do you think it's that the poverty mindset has taken over us to that point that when we hear just that 1 cent, we will want to hoard it all?
I think the best way, the Bible explains it best. The Bible talks about the spirit of mammon, right? The spirit behind money is called mammon, which a lot of people are unfortunately subservient and obedient to the spirit of mammon.
Okay.
Mammon runs their lives.
Sure.
It controls them.
Sure.
So what happens is you have prisons filled with people who worshipped mammon. You have people who live in terrible circumstances who worship mammon. Oftentimes when you hear people talk about you selling your soul, it's often a question, okay, how does someone sell their soul? Who do you sell your soul to? Is it to the devil? Is it to big companies? Who do you sell your soul to? For a lot of people, it's to mammon. And interestingly enough, it's not only the rich and wealthy, the powerful, the famous who have sold their souls. There are people who are struggling to make ends meet who have sold their soul, right?
Okay.
Because their whole entire life, their whole entire perspective on the world revolves around money. If money says yes, they say yes. If money says no, they say no. Right? They cannot do anything without consulting the spirit of mammon to say, how much money is this going to cost me if I do it?
Sure.
I have a mentor who has been very helpful to me, and one of the first things that he taught me, he said, one thing he noticed about people who do not have money is that the reason why they stay there is because when it comes to what they want, their first question is how much. It's always how much. So in other words, they have to consult with money to see if they can have it. Now, this is hard to understand when you're in a place where you don't have the money,
Sure.
right? It's very hard to understand. But people do things without money all the time. People do things without money. They find a way. They become resourceful.
Okay.
I had a meeting with this man who runs this not-for-profit organization where he distributes Bibles in different parts of Africa.
Okay.
And the conversation I had with him was very interesting because he asked me, he said, what do you want? What do you want to do? And I said, I want to do this, but as soon as I can get the money, he said, what do you want to do? So, it would be great if I could do this, but the money, what do you want to do? Not how much money do you need? What do you want to do? This, but if I can just get the money, I'm sure I can get the money. And then he put it in very simple terms. He said, Poloko, right?
Sure.
Where it's just like, forget money for now,
Yeah.
right? Forget money for now. What do you actually want? And most people don't know that because their entire frame of reference is around money. And when you think about that, you don't think about that as a poverty mentality, but it is a poverty mentality.
Sure.
Your entire frame of reference is to the dollar or the rand or the kwacha or whatever currency you use. All you can think about is how much is it going to cost? I don't have the money, and you're always trying to bargain. You're always trying to get the cheapest thing at the cheapest place and all of that. And don't get me wrong, I do understand the struggles of people as it pertains to money. I do understand those struggles. But the point being made here is not that you can't go through such seasons. The point is there's a problem when it becomes who you are.
Okay.
Right? When you operate your whole life from there. We go through those seasons.
Sure.
Right? We go through those seasons. And at the same time as well, it's not that we have to now be foolish, because there are times when you have to say, okay, maybe that's not a wise purchase because it costs too much or whatever. So I'm not talking about the exercise of wisdom. What I'm talking about is the mentality that I grew up with. When I had to go to the kitchen to eat, I had to be reminded how much eggs cost, right? When I had to eat 4 slices of bread or 6 slices of bread because I had just had a long run and I was hungry, I have to be reminded how much a loaf of bread is.
Yeah.
Right? It's that is a poverty mentality. So this is not about, comparing prices for a house or comparing prices for cars. It's not about that. It's even in the little things where you see how strongly money has a hold on someone's spirit, on their soul rather.
Yeah.
And how much that poverty mindset is rooted in them.
Sure.
The moment their child tries to run around outside in the rain. Hey, when are you run around in the rain, you're going to get sick. I don't have the money for this. I don't have the money for that. That's all they can think about.
Yeah.
That is all they can think about. And so for me, I started to break that in very little ways.
Okay.
Right? Where now, when I think about food, I don't think about money. And somebody might say, some people cannot afford bread. I'm not saying this from the perspective of someone who doesn't understand. I have been at a point where I could not afford bread. I have been at a point where I did not have a place to live. I have been there before.
Sure.
So it's not that I don't understand those struggles. It is that when I finally realized why I had those struggles, everything changed for me. And if you refuse to listen to conversations about why you have those struggles, you are likely to stay there. Because oftentimes when you listen to conversations between people who have arrived, so to speak, successful people who have made it, what we do is we have a tendency of thinking that they are out of touch with reality.
Sure.
But the truth is, when they got to that place, they realized that, oh, this was actually easier than I thought. I don't know why I struggled for so many years. This was actually easier than I thought.
Yeah.
And I bet you now, it happens for everybody at every level. When you reach a certain level that you aspire to, you get there and you're like, this is not as hard as I used to think it was.
Sure.
Right? Sure. Like, let's make it very simple. You run a podcast, and you running this podcast right now, before you had the podcast, without the equipment, without all these other things, when you think about the idea is an interesting idea, but because you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have that, it feels like it's out of reach.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you guys started your podcast without equipment.
Sure.
Right? Somebody out there is sitting and saying, if only I had equipment. But you guys started your podcast without equipment.
Sure.
And, maybe you can tell the story, but it comes down to being resourceful, right? Where if I say to someone, what are you waiting for? You can start a podcast. It's easy for you to say, you know how much cameras are? Okay, you don't want to start a podcast then. You don't want to start a podcast.
True.
Right? Because all you can think about is how much it costs.
Yeah.
So that's essentially, I'm saying a whole lot. I'm saying a whole lot.
No.
Let me throw it over to you.
So they say exposure expands expectation, right? So my question for you is, when did the shift happen for you? Yeah, in terms of, okay, right, I was thinking in this way, in a poverty mindset. How do you go from poverty mindset to an abundance mindset? What was the shift? What is the one thing that just automatically changed it for you?
There's a lot of things, and the first time that I had this shift was when I was reading a book, right? I was reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. But when it comes to real world exposure, it is 2021. 2021, I'm sitting at home on my birthday. A friend of mine calls me. He says, listen, bro, I'm an intern at Touch HD, right? Which was run by Tiwo Touch. He says, there's an interview opportunity here. I would love to have you here. Now, at this time, I'm not really that big. You know, sure. I have a little motion on social media. There's a little motion, but I'm not big like that. And I'm certainly not qualified to be called up for an interview by Tiwo Touch. He was big. I grew up listening to him. So I say to him, yes, of course, I'll be there. And at the time, I don't even have a cent. I was in Rustenburg. They were in Joburg. He says to me, can you come in for an interview on Thursday? This is on Tuesday. He says, on Thursday, can you come in for an interview? I said, of course, I'm there.
Sure.
I'm there. I don't have a cent. I cannot take a taxi. I don't have anything on my name. And so I make a plan. I get there on Thursday for the interview. And when we get into the interview, I'm listening to Tiwo Touch. I'm sitting across from him. And he's very charismatic. I'm sitting down, he's standing. Right, and he's just going off. And he has a way of name dropping every now and then. Interviewing Rick Ross. I'm like, come on, that's that. Okay, so that's what we're doing.
Sure.
But I'm listening to him, and I'm looking at him, and I'm exchanging this value with him, and the energy in the room is amazing. And as I drop some things, he gets worked up, and part of the showmanship. But as I'm sitting there, I feel like, we're not very different, right? Like we're not very different, man. Because if I can sit across from you, then I can also sit where you're sitting. And not on some, I want to take your place type of thing. I don't want to be a radio presenter. But I'm looking at him and I'm thinking to myself, you've had all of this success and you've reached these heights that I can only aspire to.
Sure.
And if I'm sitting here with you, then I can have it too. I can have it too. No one can tell me anything. My man, when I went back to Rustenburg after that conversation with Tiwo Touch, no one could tell me anything.
Sure.
Because all I could think about was, he's not that different from me. And people seem a little intimidating from a distance, but once you get close enough, okay. Yeah. Now I can
actually get there.
You get what I'm saying? Of course. And it's interesting because we have these moments all the time, right? We get these opportunities often, but not everyone is conscious enough to say, whoa. Okay. And I'm not saying that he's not amazing. Tiwo Touch is amazing. He's excellent.
Sure.
I respect him.
Sure.
But what I am saying is, he's a man like me. He is a human being. He is a black man like me, right? So somebody might say, he had these opportunities. He knew. I don't care. I don't care, right? I don't want to think about. I don't want to entertain thoughts that make me feel powerless.
Sure.
Right now, I choose to think I can do it too.
Sure.
And since then, we've done amazing. So that was one of those moments. And I'll tell you another one as well. I in 2023, that was the first time I had this invitation, but 2023, end of 2023, I am in Joburg at the time and I have to go back to Rustenburg. Before I go, I find myself in the Gautrain and I made some mistakes with the Gautrain because I didn't fully understand it and I ended up in OR Tambo. Right? So that was an expensive trip. That was an expensive trip. So when I get to OR Tambo, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I've got my laptop bag, let me just sit at one of the restaurants. I sit at one of the restaurants, and of course, I'm at the airport. Almost everybody who walks into these doors is traveling by plane.
Sure.
Now, at this point, very early on in my corporate speaking career, and as I'm sitting there, I'm watching all these people, and I'm imagining, right? I'm seeing these businessmen who are in a hurry, about to catch a flight, probably to a business meeting. I'm seeing these families who are probably about to travel internationally. I'm seeing this one meeting his girlfriend at the airport. I'm seeing all of these people traveling for different reasons. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I could be here soon, traveling for business. And I said to myself, in 2023, this was the end of 2022, I said, in 2023, I want to travel for business. I want to travel to go speak somewhere important. That would be amazing, right? So I sit there and I work and I imagine. And that's the thing about me, right? I imagine. I use my imagination, right? And it's vivid. And then I go home eventually. And 3 weeks later, because this was at the end of December, 3 weeks later, I get an urgent email. This is so-and-so from the office of the chief whip, would like to have you address the members of the National Council of Provinces at Parliament on effective public speaking and debate. And I'm like, right? So I'm looking at this email. At first, I'm thinking that this is a scam. I'm like, this is some kind of fishy. So I check everything, all the markers, the email domain. I look at the headers. I look at everything. I'm like, this checks out. So I call the number that I'm seeing over there, and he answers. He says, yes, my brother, this is so-and-so. I know that it's short notice, but we would really love to have you. This is what I would like for you to speak to them about. It was a training session, right, for some of the members of parliament.
Okay.
So he says, would love to have you. And I say, before I agree, who's paying for this? Because I know Parliament is in Cape Town. Right? Who's paying for me to get there?
Yeah.
He says, I'll have someone get in touch with you to arrange all the logistics, your accommodation, your travel, all of that will be sorted. You're going to be okay. And I said, okay, let me quickly check my diary. And I just hold it there. I said, you know what? I can move some things around. And I go there, right? But now, before I go there, I agree. They book my flights. They book my hotels. They say, okay, can we arrange transport on the ground for you to get to the airport and back? I said, yes, please do. And then the traveling itself was the exposure I needed. Because I get to the airport. I'm like, man, I'm traveling for business, right? And as I'm walking, I see the restaurant I was sitting at. I'm like, okay,
that day.
This works, right? This works.
Yeah.
And I go to check in my luggage. After checking it in, they say to me, you also have access to the slow lounge. I say, well, what is that? I don't know what the slow lounge is.
Sure.
Sign me up.
I said, well, where is it? Let me go to the slow lounge. Said, okay, this guy will take you to the slow lounge. I make my way to the slow lounge. I get there. My man, the doors open. The breeze in there felt very expensive.
Sure.
The food smelled rich. Beverages. I get there. They say, listen, just come in. They say, there's the Wi-Fi. You can have whatever you want in here, because they could see that this guy it looks a little intimidated.
Yeah.
I'm like, I belong here.
Yeah.
I belong here. Listen, I was in there. I went to the toilet for no reason. I sat down on the toilet. I get to the toilet. The toilet has music in it, like yoga, meditation type of music. And the toilet paper is pointed like this.
Sure.
And, all of these little things, right, which is very important, by the way, when you have those opportunities to expose yourself to certain things.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, this is nice. This is nice. I'm looking at the people in here. I'm paying attention to them. And the slow lounge is very exclusive. Obviously, a lot of these airport lounges are exclusive. So I'm like, wow, I'm in here with them. Right? I travel to Cape Town, I get there. When I land, and by the way, they flew me business. So I'm like, there's leg room here. We have leg room.
Yeah.
But when I land, I call them, I say, I've arrived. What do I do from here? They say the driver's there. When you, let me send you his number. I get the driver's number. I call him and he says, yes, Mr. Poloko, I'm at Parkade 2. Just go to this and that place. And he says, when you get there, just look for the black Mercedes with hazards on. That's me. And I get there. I'm like, these are the cars I've seen on the road. These are the ones that move you out of the N1. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is exactly like the ones I know.
Yeah.
You know, I get there, I go to the hotel that they put me in, very nice hotel. I go to the venue. It was a multiple day conference. But, you know, it goes on and on and on. I had all of these little moments that I really enjoyed. And as I'm looking at this, all of a sudden I say, okay, I've leveled up now, right? I've leveled up. So this is possible.
Sure.
This is a possibility. Never mind what I've had until now. You know, I've done a few churches here and there, you know, a few small businesses here and there, but this is possible.
This is big, yeah.
This is what's out there for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the fact that I was there, and this is like, again, when it comes to exposure, you also want to watch out for this mentality of arrival, because you don't want to sit with wealthy people and think you've arrived, right? You're not one of them yet. You just had an opportunity to sit with them.
Yeah.
So when I have this opportunity, to me, it's not, oh, I've arrived. No. To me, it's, okay, so we're leveling up, but this is possible now. This is possible as a standard, right? And when they did a phenomenal job and was invited back again last year. Yes, I was invited back again last year. So the point is that exposure for me was invaluable.
Sure.
And it was from that exposure that for me it was solidified that you are indeed one of the best speakers in the country, one of the best speakers in the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter who knows it yet, they will find out soon enough. So continue to increase your value, continue to increase your weight, so that when you show up to these rooms, you can actually occupy space. You can actually hold your own. Because when I sat in that room, in that training session for Parliament, I'm looking at the program, and everybody on the program, this was a 3-day thing. Everybody on the program is honorable so-and-so, advocate so-and-so, doctor so-and-so.
Yeah.
Everyone. I was the only one who was Mr. Poloko Makholane. Right?
Yeah.
As I'm looking at this, there is the temptation to feel inadequate, but immediately it's like, oh, okay, so I did something to get here. I did something. I gave something. And, you know, especially to you guys who are, you know, doing this podcast and you're just starting off, listen to me. You have no idea who's watching. You have no idea who is watching, my man.
Sure.
Because I've had people invite me to speaking engagements in some of the best places, you know, places like Nedbank. I remember this lady saying to me, I watch your live stream. At the time, my live stream had like 70 viewers, you know, and you have no idea who one of the 70 is.
Yeah.
So it's really important for you to maintain that standard of excellence, for you to challenge yourself, for you to not treat it as, you know, it's just like my podcast is not that big.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know? So how would you be carrying yourself if this was the biggest podcast in the world? And you carry yourself that way now because you have no idea. It may not be the biggest podcast in the world, but the biggest person in the world could be watching this. The biggest podcast in the world could be watching this. So that exposure for me has been life-changing, man. And I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah.
Get yourself in spaces where you don't only sit in there fascinated by how they do things and, you know, go away with critiques and all of these things. You know, some people get into spaces and all they can do is walk away complaining about how so-and-so does this, so-and-so does this.
Yeah.
Relax. what are you learning? What are you seeing? What is it challenging in you?
Sure.
What does it tell you about what's possible for you?
Sure.
So in terms of ranking, that experience, the parliament experience, and winning the SASMA, which one has a slighter edge in terms of exposure?
You know, by the way, I respect the SASMAs.
Yeah.
I appreciate the SASMAs. I appreciated the opportunities they've given me, you know, to be on that stage. But I never really cared for awards, man. I never really cared for awards. So for me, although it was valuable, it wasn't that heavy. It didn't carry that much weight in my life.
You know why I'm
It
asking?
really didn't.
It's the caliber of people that you were nominated with. That's why I wanted to know.
Yeah, and you know, I got that, and that for me, the most powerful thing about it was it told me a lot about the community I have.
Okay.
Right. So it was an indicator of the community I have because it's a voting thing.
Yeah.
It's a voting thing where
Sure.
you win on votes. You don't win on anything else. You win
Yeah.
on votes. So when I realized that, man, I have a community that's riding for me.
Sure.
That for me is the real win.
Yeah.
Like that's the real success. If I happen to get the same amount of votes and get beaten out by one vote, that would have been confirmation for me. That would have been a big win for me,
Sure.
rather, right? Because these people vote with money, first of all, and secondly, they don't have to vote. You know, that's the thing about social media. People don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So for me, the community aspect of it was a big revelation to me that showed me that, I have people who are writing for me. I have people who are impacted by this work. They appreciate the work, and they took this opportunity to show me how much they appreciate the work, and I appreciate them as well. So for me, that was what it's about. The award is nice, and it's a nice experience. The applause is nice, but it's not about the actual award itself, you know. But for me, if I had to compare it, the parliament exposure weighed way more.
Okay.
And before that, the Tibo Touch exposure weighed even more than that.
Okay.
Because it matters what comes before.
Sure.
Right? So the Tibo Touch exposure found me when I was still at a place where I thought that I would be Poloko from Rustenburg forever.
Sure.
Right? Or rather Poloko in Rustenburg forever. When I still wanted to be a big voice in my town.
Sure.
That's where it found me. So you have to consider how much it really changed me. So as you go along, the level of exposure you have is only as valuable as it is transformational.
Okay.
It depends how much it really transforms you.
Sure.
You know, I'll give you an example, and this is not just about accomplishment, but this past weekend I was in Stellenbosch, and we're having this beautiful celebration with friends of ours. You know, beautiful, man, things I've never seen before, right? And as we're enjoying all of this, I'm thinking to myself, and I remember saying to the guy who invited us as well, saying to him, I was convicted because I realized I don't celebrate life, man. You know, because we were there celebrating, we were just, you know, getting
Sure.
down. And even as I'm dancing, I'm like, when was the last time I did this? You know? When was the last time I just let loose for a little bit? No podcasts, no, you know, books, no work,
serious
no
stuff.
spreadsheets,
Yeah.
no nothing. Just let loose for a little bit. So I realized, I was like, I'm not celebrating life. You know, and funny enough, me and one of my boys always talked about how when we have this, we're gonna do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when we have this, we're gonna do that. We used to talk about cars all the time. When we both have cars, we're gonna go to all these places, and we're never taking one car. We're always doing a convoy, and
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna travel. have all these experiences, and as soon as you get the cars, as soon as you get the money, as soon as you're able to do all of those things, you forget. And I realized it myself. I was like, that's a mistake I have, man. I'm not letting loose. I'm not, and I don't mean that has to be my personality now. I love working. I love creating. I love doing what I do. But I realized I don't celebrate the milestones. I don't celebrate the growth as much as I should.
Sure.
And for some reason, I keep postponing it. Every time I get to a milestone, I'm like, when we get to that milestone, though, we're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as soon as you get there, you say, but when we get to that one, we're going to celebrate.
Yeah.
So I realized, I was like, man, sometimes, and it's not even a lot. Sometimes it's just call a few friends over. Let's put some meat on the braai and let's relax.
Sure.
Some music, laughs, whatever.
Sure.
Play games, just relax. I realized I wasn't doing a whole lot of that, so I was a bit convicted on that.
Yeah.
That's what made me come back and say, okay, now we're doing things differently.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so to close it off, man, you've written a wonderful book. I've read it myself. I have it. Shout out to you. What made you to write this book? Were you facing a specific problem, and you also saw that, okay, other people are also going through the same thing, so let me just put it into pen and paper?
I have a video on my laptop somewhere in a drive. I'm not gonna share that with people until I feel the need to someday in the future. But in that video, I was sitting in a car, a parked bakkie, right?
Okay.
That was on top of some bricks. I didn't have a place to stay, so this guy said to me, "Hey man, you can stay for the night in the bakkie because, I could take you home, but the family doesn't know you. I've got young girls in the house. I can't bring a guy in." And I understood. I was like, don't take a strange guy to the house when you got girls in the house. And he let me in into the yard, and I slept in that parked bakkie outside. And this is in May, June, so this is winter.
Ooh.
And he just brought me a blanket. He said, tomorrow you can figure it out, but for now, here you go. I slept in there, and I did a few nights in there. It was so interesting. I did a few nights in that bakkie, because in that season of my life, what I would do was I would hustle up enough money for the day to go and pay for a guest house. And then hustle up enough for the next day, pay for a guest house. Hustle up hopefully enough for a few nights and stay in the guest house for a few nights so I could breathe a little bit. And in that season of my life, not knowing what to do, where to go, how do I get out of this season? How do I help myself out? Because you keep pushing harder, right? I'm pushing hard. I'm like, God, what's happening? I'm pushing hard. But nothing is moving. So on one of those days when I wake up in this man's bakkie, parked outside in some bricks, the cold was dealing with me through the night. My back is sore because I was sleeping in a car. I remember thinking to myself, this will be a story to tell.
Sure.
This will be a story to tell, because I had the conviction that I will get out, but I didn't know how.
Sure.
And it was in that moment that I had the revelation that hard work is not doing it for me. Don't get me wrong. It's important to work hard. The Bible encourages working hard. I work hard all the time. But hard work alone was not going to be the answer for me. And so in that moment, I recognized this guy letting me into his bakkie to sleep the night as help. So somebody else, it might be like, oh, you were so down. But that to me is help.
Yeah.
That was a moment of favor where I could have slept in the streets.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would have slept in the streets that night, because in that season, I never one time had to sleep in the streets, because I always had a plan. I would always make a plan. Right, I would make a plan to the point where sometimes the guest house was like $500. So there were times when I didn't have the $500, but I had $200. And so what I did with it was I just traveled to Joburg to a friend of mine saying, I'm in the neighborhood. Let me crash over at your place, right? And I would crash over at his place. I slept a few nights there, man, because I really had to make a plan. I didn't know how to do that. But while I was in that place, I thought to myself, I can see how God is sustaining me in this season. And there are seasons to deliverance, right? Where you have the Israelites leaving the place of enslavement, Egypt. And when they leave there, God gives them sustenance. It's not abundance, but it's sustenance, enough for you to live.
Sure.
When you need food, you'll have something to eat. But from that food, you will never have enough for the next day.
Yeah.
If you try to keep enough for the next day, it's going to rot. You won't have enough. So there is first the season of sustenance where God sustains you and teaches you how to lean fully on Him. Where even if you wanted to, you don't have a plan for tomorrow. And so without a plan for tomorrow, I don't have a choice but to say, God, tomorrow let's take care of me again. You got me again tomorrow. And I'll go through that. And then from there, before you get into the promised land, you have to rid yourself of the mindset that sustained you in that season, right? Because that mindset was a mindset of sustenance. Sure. It was the mindset of a child who says, Mom, I'm hungry and food is there. I'm hungry, food is there. I'm cold, put a jacket on you. But now I had to grow up where before you enter the promised land, I've got to deal with your mindset. Unless you change your mindset, you're not making it into the promised land. And so it was in that season of my life where I thought to myself, I wish that I had the kind of favor that I see other people carrying. I wish I had that kind of favor on my life. And in that season of my life, I remember recording that video and I said, I am getting out of this season. I'm getting out. It can't be like this forever. I had this confidence that I'm getting out. And so what I started to do was I started to pay close attention to how I was getting out, to the mindsets that God was shifting in me, the things that God was removing from me. I started to pay attention to what God used in what I had to bring me out. I started to realize, some of the things that I wrote in there, I realized that God was using the gift that I have. As long as I was generous enough to share my gift with people, people were inviting me to speak and they didn't even know that I didn't have a place to stay, right? They didn't even know that the reason I'm eating so much at the event is because I've got to eat for tomorrow, right? They didn't know that, but they keep on inviting me. I keep showing up and they're not paying me. Some of them are like, you do me a favor, I've got you, and I'm the. And I'm not saying that, don't reach out to me thinking that I'm going to speak for free all my life. But in that season of my life, I was just giving. Not complaining about the fact that I don't have enough for myself anyway and I'm doing this for free. I was just doing it. And God was positioning me through the gift that I have. Through my giving, He was positioning me. Another principle is relationships. That man putting me in his bakkie just outside his house where I was safe, that for me was huge, right? But besides that, while I was in those places serving, giving, whatever, I built relationships where there was one time I showed up to an event to speak for free and there was someone in the room who gave me the next paying gig, right? So it was important for me to recognize the value of relationships. Sure. No one gets ahead by themselves. Sure. No one gets ahead by trying to carry the weight of what they do on their own shoulders. You need partners. You need people to run with. There will be people who show up and carry you. Some of them are not even friends. They're not even business partners. They are just strangers positioned by God. But as the Bible says, the kings will come to the brightness of your rising. So they come to the light that you carry. As long as you continue to make sure that you radiate light, there will be people who are drawn to you with the hopes to just serve you. I mean, I had someone, guys, when I say this, I mean simple things like there were times when I said to someone, I want to host an event at State Theater. He said, find out how much it is and send me the invoice, right? There were times when I said to people, this is what I'd like to do. And they said, just let me know how much it costs. Just let me know how much it costs and I've got it covered. What do you want? What can I do? And their whole thing was, I just want to make sure that you are taken care of. I just want to make sure that this thing happens because I believe in what you're doing. And let me tell you something. It was never because they believe in me as Poloko, who was born with nothing. No. They believe in what I'm doing, right? They believe in what I'm giving to the world. So those relationships sustained me, right? So I was paying attention to that. I was paying attention to the fact that it was the power of value that really changed my life. While I was out there giving value to people, God was changing my life. God was positioning me, because the whole time, as long as I have something of value, people are coming. As long as I have something of value, people are coming. I mean, you're holding my book right now. That book is value in the hands of people, right?
Yeah.
It is value in the hands of people, where so many testimonies come in every single day from people who are saying, thank you, thank you. I needed to read this. If I hadn't read this, I would still be stuck. So that is value. That is what positions you for favor. And then there are other principles, the excellence. There is the principle of prayer and fasting, the power of prayer and fasting, and how it brings clarity and alignment. There is the power of faith and mental rewiring your mindset for favor. All of these things were things that I noted down and journaled as God was bringing me out of that season.
Sure.
As God is bringing me out, I'm writing it down. As He's bringing me out, I'm writing it down, thinking to myself, oh man, this will be a story to tell one day. And when I wrote the book, I had two choices to make, where on the one hand, I was busy writing it in the form of a story, but it was a motivational story, right? Of how I got out of this season. And God said, that's not what you're going to do. And so instead of that, what I had to do was change the entire the entire approach. And what I did was write down the principles that brought me out.
Sure.
Very simple. It's a 30-day devotional. So every single one of the 30 days, simple, straight to the point. Nobody cares about your story. Just give people value. Right? Focus on telling people how to do what it is that they need to do to position themselves for favor with God and favor with people. So that's what it was for me. That's why I wrote Unlocking Favor with God and People. So in short, really, Unlocking Favor with God and People is just my journal from that dark season that I was being pulled out of. Right? Just along the way, just journaling. This is what God is doing. This is what He's using. This is how He's pulling me out. And here it is for you to read. That's what it was.
And can I say, if I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't have wanted to start my new podcast. Yeah, I read on the power of resourcefulness. And then I was like, you know what? This is what I have. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Powerful. What's the name of the new pod?
Behind the Craft.
Behind the Craft. Do you already have the platforms?
Not yet.
Not as yet.
Oh yeah, you don't have the platforms yet. You need to do it now.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Now let me tell you something.
Sure.
And because we're wrapping this up, like, I need to tell you this about you guys.
Sure.
Right? Because these people don't know that I know you in real life. Guys, now, right? Now. You get a message, respond to it now. You get an idea, move now. Don't put it off. Don't put it off. Behind the Craft is such a simple name. Someone out there is creating Behind the Craft.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just know. Just know. You don't need too much.
Yeah.
Before this podcast goes up, even if you posted this podcast tonight, you can create an account right now.
The account is there. Is there. It's just sitting down, like I said, sitting down with the people. And they are aligned. Just the days are
of course.
There.
Of course. So put it out there. Plug it. Tell them to go find
Subscribe.
Behind the Craft.
Subscribe.
Tell them where to subscribe and
I'll put the link down on the description.
Get it going, my man. Get it going. There's no time to waste. You guys see how quickly the year's going.
Sure.
This year is not playing.
It's already March.
Soon enough,
Yeah.
we'll be making 2027 plans. And all it's going to be is just recycling 2026 plans.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That sucks, yeah.
That sucks. For you to just recycle 2026 goals and say, oh, this year. This year. That's not the way to do it. So let's do big things, gentlemen.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. PK.
Appreciate it, gents.
For coming through and sharing so much, man.
Nuggets, golden nuggets.
I believe there are people out there that are probably struggling, and with what you've given them today, they will most definitely implement the things that you've taught us.
Yeah, and let me say this, right? Like, since you mentioned the struggling people, to the person who's struggling, struggle is overrated. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm downplaying what you're going through right now, but you know as well as I do that it's passing.
Sure.
You know as well as I do that it's passing. You know as well as I do that it can't last forever. That's impossible. That is impossible. You will either die or it'll pass. Right? And I hope you don't die. I hope you stay around. So oftentimes the present moment is so overrated. Yeah. And I understand that when something is happening to you now it feels like it's happening forever. Yeah. But it's not forever. It's not forever. So when we share these stories and when we share this encouragement, we're not just sharing stories that we made up creatively. What we're sharing is just where we found the bread, right? All this is just one beggar, or rather one person who used to be a beggar, trying to tell other people who are where I used to be, where I found the bread, just coming back, and I'm excited, right? And some people say, why would you be motivating if you... I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I mean, you know where I come from? I'm just happy to come and tell people that, hey, guys, we can make it out. There's a way out. So I'm one of the ones who are just coming back and saying, guys, I can't go alone. Let's go. There's a way out. There's a way out. So if you're watching this and you're having a hard time right now, you know it's going to pass. I don't even have to try to convince you. You know it's going to pass. It's just a matter of how long it takes. And how long it takes is determined by how sorry you feel for yourself. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and just get out. Right? Start moving. One step at a time, every single day, you're going to get out. Right, that's enough talking from me, gents.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. And as you found value in this episode, please make sure to like, share, and definitely subscribe. My man, peace out.
Yes, sir.